Hello and welcome to the Racing Roundtable. Today's video will be about sprint races and whether they're a long-term thing or just a gimmick to make money for the owners, Liberty Media. So I'm going to begin with, the sprint race itself. I think it's a 100-kilometer race, uh, which is probably about 20 to 30 laps, depending on the track. Just using soft tires if you want or medium tires, and trying to finish as high as you can to start as high as you can. It's basically qualifying, but not qualifying at the same time. It's a race to qualify, basically. And it happens on the Saturday. If you finish the sprint race first, you qualify first for the race, etc. And you get points as well. I think this season is 8 points for a win instead of 3. I know the points go down all the way to 8th. Last season it was just 3 points for the win, 2 points if you finish second, and 1 point if you finish third. And then the remaining drivers don't get points. So you wouldn't get an incentive to attack as hard as you can. And also it's extra running costs for the teams, and increased chances of damage. And you have the budget cap as well. So, you get damage in a sprint race, you have to get replacement parts, fix those parts, etc. Adds to your costs. Which is why there's only 3 races happening this season and not, I think they wanted 5 or 10 sprint races. So yeah, the sprint race as a whole, by itself, in a vacuum, is an okay idea. It's to me, it's a bit artificial because, it's basically a race before the race, and actual qualifying is basically like a pre-qualifying in a way, like they had back in the 90s, I think. So it's in a way artificial qualifying, especially when you get points for getting pole position or so-called pole position. And so it's not like it's not pure in a way. If it was treated as a separate thing, possibly, but that's how they've done it. The weekend format though is a good format. All 3 days of the weekend have some sort of action. Friday, 1 practice session, and then you have qualifying. Well, pre-qualifying in my eyes, but you have qualifying. On Saturday, you have the 2nd practice session, and then the sprint race, which happens like late afternoon, which gives it a nice feel to it. And then you have the race, obviously, on the Sunday. So there's only 2 practice sessions, and then the race. And that gives teams less time to, set up their car, understand what their car needs to do, how it's behaving, and it adds to the excitement in a way. But yeah, it's still artificial. I don't know. I can't think of any other solution to spice up qualifying or the race weekend. The qualifying format, the actual qualifying format, is pretty much perfect. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But the sprint race, I guess, is, I don't know, best compromise out of what possibly could have happened. Because reverse grids were a possibility. Things like that. So I guess it's the best compromise that you could reach. But I do agree with the weekend format. It makes things interesting. Friday is not just a dud. Friday, Saturday, Sunday has some sort of action. And the reason sprint races were introduced was mainly for commercial reasons. Linking in with the 3 days of action. The sprint races themselves are sponsored by, I think, Crypto.com. So they're right there is just money coming in for F1, just by having an extra kind of race. In addition to the title sponsor of the race, the general sponsors, and etc. So 3 extra races means extra income for F1. More fans will probably buy tickets for the Friday sessions, the Saturday sessions. Then you obviously have the race, and I think it's made money for the sport. The sport's making this is probably peak popularity for Formula One right now. This is the biggest it's ever been. They've finally cracked the American market. Even more worldwide fans getting more coverage in the media. Um, F1 YouTube is also um, exploding as well. And yeah, I had to take a quick break there. So yeah, I can't remember what I last said, but yeah, to sum up, F1 have made a lot of money from sprint races and F1 becoming more popular. So it works for Formula One financially. Uh, and also, final point, sprint races impact the Drivers' Championship and Constructors' Championship. 8 points is a lot of points. And if for some reason a rival, let's say Leclerc, he wins the sprint race, he gets the 8 points. But if Verstappen is second and he somehow crashes out or has to retire, he's just lost 8 points to Leclerc in the championship. And that's 8 points that he wouldn't have lost if there was a normal qualifying session. And since there's three sprint races this year, that's 24 extra points for the winner. That's a lot of points. That's almost a race win to if you tally it up. So they have a massive impact on the drivers' championship and the constructors' championship, more so on the drivers than the constructors. But yeah, as a whole, I think it should stay as a whole because it brings something different. Even though it's a little bit artificial to me, it does bring something different. Um, and maybe maximum of 5 or 6 sprint races a season at tracks where overtaking is easy. You can't have a sprint race at Imola this weekend doesn't really make sense because Imola is difficult to overtake on. It might change with the cars this year, but it's still a tricky track to overtake on. Having one maybe Canada, Monza, Brazil, you know, that makes sense. Um, but having one at Imola is a bit of a, yeah, doesn't make that much sense. But 5 to 6 a season would be a good amount if the teams would agree to it. So yeah, thank you for listening. If you have any comments, please comment down below, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.